Section 5.7 is on adding and subtracting, unlike fractions. So in other words, fractions that don't have a denominator that matches. When the denominators don't match, you have to find the least common denominator and rename the fractions with the least common denominator as their denominators. We've already done some of this. When we were comparing fractions, we did this. So the least common denominator between 4 and 3, or the smallest number that 4 and 3 can both go into, would be 12. So I want to rename these as something over 12. The fraction stays the same. It's like having a nickname, if you will. I can have the same amount that is named by two fractions, and those fractions actually are equal to each other. One is just not reduced to lowest term. So if I go 4 and I go, what times 4 equals 12? 4 times 3, so I'd have to multiply the top and the bottom by 3. So 1/4 can be renamed to 3/12. Well, obviously if you reduce 3/12, it does reduce to 1/4. 2/3, I need to multiply the 3 times 4 to get 12, so therefore I multiply the top times 4 as well. So that's going to give me 8/12. Now the denominator matches, so I just have to add the numerator. So that gives me an 11 over 12. On this one, I have a 4 and a 7. The smallest number that they both can go into is going to be 28. So I want to rename those fractions with 28 on the bottom. So I will multiply the top and the bottom there by 7. So that gives me 21 over 28. And I would multiply the top and the bottom here by 4, which gives me 4 over 28. So that gives me a 25 over 28 when I add the numerators. There is a shortcut method to this. Some people like to use it, some people don't. I actually don't think on the bigger problems it really doesn't seem like much of a shortcut. But I'm going to show you how to do it. You're going to multiply up. So I'm going to get a 21. I'm going to multiply up here. I'm going to get a 4. If you want, you can put the little butterfly antennas on. And then I'm going to multiply across here, and I'm going to get a 28. So then I'm going to go 21 plus 4 is 25. And I bring the 28 over. So that's going to give me a 25 over 28 that you know is the same thing you got when you did it the other way. Okay, butterfly method on this one. Multiply up, I get a 3. Multiply up, I get an 8. Okay, and I'm going to add, if you will, the 3 plus 8, and that's going to give me an 11. I'm going to multiply the bottom. That's going to give me a 12. So that gives me 11/12. Now this is a method where you can add them without doing the common denominator. Bigger numbers, it's going to be quicker to do the common denominator, and I'll show you one of those later. The butterfly method is good for smaller fractions. Adding mixed numerals, okay? You can do it two ways. You can convert them to improper fractions first. So you have 9 times 1 is 9, plus 2 more is 11. So this is 11/9 plus 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So I have a -7/3. Well, I've got to come up with a common denominator between those, and it would be 9. So I'm going the first one I leave alone. The second one, oops, that needs to be a 9 right there. I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3. So I have a -21. So when I do a -21 plus 11, I get a -10 over 9. If I make that back into a mixed numeral, it's a -1 and 1/9. You don't have to convert. You can leave them as mixed numerals. Now obviously I'm going to subtract the smaller number from the larger, and I'm going to use the sign of the larger number here. So I'm going to take 2 1/3 minus 1 2/9. but I know my answer is going to be negative because my larger number is negative. So I look at the fractions. This is going to have to be renamed to something over 9. So I multiply 3 times 3 because the least common denominator here is going to be 9. So that's going to become 3 over 9. So I rename 1/3 as 3/9. 3 minus 2 is 1. And I subtract and I get a 1. Notice it's the same answer. If you convert first, you can do the butterfly method, but I think you'll see that it's not always the best method to use. Okay, I converted first here. Okay, so I'm going to multiply up, so I have 33. Multiply up, so I have a negative 63. I'm going to multiply across the bottom, so I have a 27. So when I add this, I'm going to have a negative 30 over 27, but I have to divide them both by 3 to reduce down. So I get a negative 10 over 9, or a negative 1 1/9. Okay? Same technique for subtraction. You have to find the least common denominator, rename the fraction as that denominator. So the least common denominator here would be 21. So the first fraction just is brought down. The second fraction I have to rename with a 21 on the bottom. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom times 3. So that's going to give me an 18. So I'm going to get a negative 13 over 21. If I did the butterfly method, 35 minus 126, and on the bottom it's going to give me a 147. So you can see that the butterfly method might not be the easiest there. So I have a 35 minus a 126, so I'm going to get a negative 91 on the top, and I'm going to get a 147 on the bottom. Now I am betting that I can reduce that. So I bet I can divide them both by 7. And when I do, I get a negative 13 over 21. Because the numbers are bigger like that, I'm not sure the butterfly method is as simple as what the regular method is. Same thing with subtracting mixed numerals. You can convert them first. So this would be a 13 over a 2 minus a 21 over 5. Okay. Common denominator here would be a 10. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom here by 5, top and bottom here by 2. So 13 times 5 is going to be 65. And 21 times 2 is going to be a 42, which when I subtract, I'm going to get a 23 over 10, or a 2 and 3/10. If I do without converting, I have a 6 1/2 minus a 4 1/5. Again, the common denominator would be 10. So multiply here by 5. So 1/2 becomes 5/10. Multiply here by 2. So 1/5 becomes 2/10. 5 minus 2 is 3. And 4 minus 2 is 2. So you can see you get the same answer. So it really is up to you whether you want to make them improper fractions first or whether you want to just do them without converting them. If you did the butterfly method, again, you would have to do where you made them into mixed numerals. So if I have 13 over 2 and I have minus 21 over 5, I multiply up. So that's going to give me a 65. Multiply up, it's going to give me a 42. Okay, and then multiply across, so that's going to give me a 10. So when I subtract here, I'm going to get a 23. I bring the bottom over, and that's a 10. When I divide that, that gives me 2 3/10. 3 different ways of doing the same problem. Your homework on this is page 235, 12 through 28 even.